King of Mongkok here, KOMK. Thanks for checking it out. Today I'm going to talk about the 5 biggest adjustments I had to make moving to Hong Kong. Living in Hong Kong is an amazing thing for me. For me, I love living in Hong Kong. I love the fact that I left America to go and live in Hong Kong 19 years ago. Actually, 19 years and 1 week. Today is 1 week after, kind of, something like that. 19 years. And you have to make adjustments. Not only do you adjust to cultural type things, that's a little bit different, but these are kind of more like lighthearted adjustments. All right? So the first one that I have here is it takes me 2 to 3 weeks sometimes to find a pair of shoes that I like that are in my size. So as a reference point, I'm 6'4", I wear a size 13 shoe, and not always can you find size 13s at all the great shoe stores that are all over Hong Kong in particular. So, well, I guess it should be Mongkok in particular. There is a street in Hong Kong. It's changed a bit over the years, but it's still basically there, and it's called Bo Hai Gai. It's a street just for shoes. You go down the street, and it's shop after shop after shop after shop for blocks, for a few blocks, both sides of the street, nothing but shoes. All the shoes you could possibly want. I love buying shoes. I love having shoes. Well, at least I did, because it takes me too long to find shoes. So sometimes if I find a pair of shoes that I like, that I think I'm going to like, I often buy 2 pairs. Because I'm like, they're all right, they're nice kicks, I'll keep them. But when I wear them out, I need to have a fresh pair, bam, I'll buy them. Often that's not the case though, but if it does happen, then I can search the outlets, but outlets you have to go to, it's like a hit or miss. You go this week, they don't have anything, but you go 2 days later, they might have something. So that would be my number 5. All right, another one is Hong Kong kitchens are different than kitchens that I grew up with, right? A typical American kitchen, right? You have 4 burners, you have an oven, you got lots of counter space. Things are micro in a way. Flats or apartments are much smaller unless you got lots of loot, and you have to get adjusted to cooking a full meal with 2 burners. All right, I like to cook. I love to cook, I should say, and it took me a while to work out only having 2 burners. All right, sometimes I have pulled out the hot pot burner so that I had 3 burners going at one time, but you start to adjust. You have to make the adjustment to learn how to cook with 2 burners. Plus, the big kicker, and I think I should do a whole video on it, is the rice cooker. That would be a bonus to it though, because the rice cooker kind of becomes your best friend when you live in Hong Kong, I think, for me, because you can cook rice, you can steam your vegetables, you can put a fish in there, you can put chicken in there, you can put all types of stuff, and once you close it, push the button, it's just going to cook and then it's done, right? It doesn't take too long, about 15-20 minutes to cook rice. And if you have a nice fish on the top deck there, up on the top deck, whoo, it's nice. So that's an adjustment. Another really big adjustment for me, which is still hard, is that Hong Kong is not bike friendly. It is not a bike friendly place. If you go to Tokyo, everybody's riding bikes. Major city, super big city, bigger than Hong Kong in terms of population and stuff like that. Everybody's riding bikes. There's bikes everywhere. Osaka, all over Japan, big cities, people are riding bikes. China, big cities, everybody's riding bikes. Hong Kong is not a bike-friendly place, and I I miss riding my bike. It's hard. It's hard. It would be great if I could just get on my bike and just ride everywhere that I want to go to. But because Hong Kong is not a bike-friendly place, it doesn't make it so much fun. I do have a bike and I've ridden it a bit, not as much as I should have. And also for living on Kowloon side, especially in Mong Kok, if you go to Jordan, Jim Sab Joy, stuff like that, to hang out, do whatever, it literally on the bike, it takes you like 2.5 minutes to get down there. And you're not even like trying to go real fast, so it's also very small. But that's not a reason, too much to get into as to why I think Hong Kong is not a bike-friendly place. Biggest thing I want to say is humidity, weather. People don't, Hong Kong people don't really want to be on a bike and they go somewhere and they get to where they're going and they're just drenched in sweat. They can't just change clothes when they just want to go shopping a little bit in a different district. So I understand. There's some reasons, but it's a big adjustment for me. The next thing is learning to live in a much smaller accommodation. My flat is about 450 square feet. I'm in Mong Kok, so that's a decent size for living in Mong Kok. But it's small. Even my place in DC, lived with my grandmother, the great grandma Maxine, and our place wasn't that big, but the house, her house, and everything like that. But when you go and then you're living in 450 square feet, it takes an adjustment. It takes you got to have a lot more self-control to not buy certain things. You can't buy bigger objects or items. You can't clutter your house up too much. I have a habit of buying books too often sometimes. So I have a very large bookshelf, but I think books are okay. Records as well. I still buy records. But it takes an adjustment, just the moving around and the smaller living room and bedrooms. I mean, everything's smaller. And when I go back to the States from time to time and I visit people, my family and friends, stuff like that, I forget how big places are, how massive people's homes are. Maybe unnecessary, maybe as you adjust and you learn to live in a much smaller place, you start to think, do I really need such a big place? Or do people need such a big place? Maybe not. So that's a big adjustment. One small adjustment that also took me, it was very quick to get used to and make that adjustment and stuff like that, is taking your shoes off when you go into the house. Thai style, you leave your shoes outside of the house. You don't even go in the door with your shoes on. But in Hong Kong, often people will walk into the door, and right by the door, you take off your shoes and you leave your shoes there, and then you don't have shoes on in the house. I wholeheartedly agree with this, and I love it. It becomes a normal habit and everything like that. And then even when I go to the States now, I bring some slippers, some house slippers, no matter what, and I take off my shoes when I go into people's houses. Even when I go visit friends, I'll bring some of those slippers to my friend's house or something like that, and I take off my shoes when I come into the house, because I understand there's also several reasons for it. A big reason is I live in Mong Kok. I'm out on the street walking. We do a lot of, you're out on the, we don't drive or anything like that. So you're taking the bus, the subway, you're walking, whatever it may be. You're bringing in a lot of dirt. Why would you bring all of that in the house, right? Kind of makes sense, right? But I understand maybe in Western culture, you're really only walking from your door to your car, from your car to a door. You're not out on the street much really doing things to really get your shoes super dirty at least. And so, but it's an adjustment, but I love it. I love it, and it's great. Out the floors are less dirty, and except for there's dogs and cats and hair everywhere. You got to vacuum 10 times a day. Anyways, that's an adjustment. All right. The last adjustment that I've had to make living in Hong Kong is music. Hong Kong is not a music place. It's not. There's a lot of music to be heard. You can go and find live bands and DJs and stuff like that. COVID times are a little bit different, of course, but Hong Kong people as a whole really aren't into music in the same way as, say, we are in the States. And that's my only reference point, right? Or even, when you go Thailand, big into music. Japan, big into music, things like that. Growing up in DC and in the States, music was such a powerful medium, and it speaks to you in a lot of ways, especially as you grow up and during different times and phases in your life. So I miss that. I miss the music and being able to find a lot of good music like I am accustomed to or was accustomed to from living in the States. And really the last thing, of course, the biggest adjustment is also being away from some of the people that I grew up with and loved the most, some family members and friends and things like that. That's always hard, especially when you're so far away. It's not like I just moved to another state or across the country, moved to the other side of the world. And after 19 years, though, I've assimilated within the culture, and Hong Kong is my home now. And I don't know if I'll ever leave here or go back to the States to live. I don't think so. But it still takes an adjustment, and at times you don't feel so adjusted to it. Those nostalgic times like Christmas or holidays or something like that, birthdays, things like that, when you talk to family members. So that's a big adjustment. So for anybody else watching this, if you're going to move far away, if you're going to move to the other side of the world, think about some of the adjustments you're going to have to make when making that move. King of Hong Kong, KOMK. Thanks for checking it out.